Hello. The next linear measuring instrument is sleep gauges or gauge blocks. Sleep gauges are based on end measurements or end standard, and sleep gauges are basically the rectangular blocks of steel as shown in this picture. And these sleep gauges or rectangular blocks are generally kept in a box like this. So the sleep gauges shown in the picture on the left are a part of this box. Okay, so some of the sleep gauges from that box uh, are shown here in the picture on the left. Okay, and these sleep gauges are manufactured by the Japanese company Mitutoyo. Okay. As they are end standard or as they're based on end standard or end measurement, which means that their ends or the faces of the sleep gauges are used for measurement. So if, for example, if this is a sleep gauge, I already mentioned this. So if this is a sleep gauge, then uh, then the faces, so this face and the one behind is not visible, are used for the measurement. That means the distance between those two faces represent the dimension to be measured. Okay, so this sleep gauge can only be used for for measuring the value which is the thickness of the sleep gauge, or which is the distance between the two parallel planes. Okay, so this is the size of this sleep gauge. So the distance between the two parallel measuring faces, these faces are not useful. So the faces that I am hatching in blue, so the face, this and the one behind are not used for measurement. Only two of the faces are used. Okay, and that the distance between the two measuring faces is the size of the sleep gauge. Okay, so that's why you can read, you can see that on each of the sleep gauges shown here in this picture. For example, here the size of that sleep gauge is 50. That means that particular sleep gauge can be used only to measure a distance of 50 mm. Okay, to either to measure or to establish a distance of 50 mm. And if you want to measure distance, or if you want to establish a distance that is greater than the size of the sleep gauge, then you will have to ring the sleep gauges together. So on this slide you can see how the sleep gauges are run together, and this is how the sleep gauges work, that they are run together, and the process of ringing is shown here in this picture. So to measure a dimension that is more than the size of the sleep gauge, we have to ring the sleep gauges together, and this is accomplished by pressing the faces into contact and then imparting a small twisting motion while maintaining the contact pressure. Okay, so starting from this first picture, so two sleep gauges of different sizes are taken here, and by holding the sleep gauge 6, sleep gauge 2 is first slided over this face, over the measuring face of slip gauge 6. So this goes like that. Then there is a transverse motion as shown in picture B. So there is a transverse motion of slip gauge 2 over slip gauge 6 by maintaining a constant pressure uh, on them. And then finally, after this, the slip gauge 2 or slip gauge 6, they are twisted with respect to each other. So they are twisted like that, and after twisting, these two slip gauges are held together firmly, okay, and generally this bond or this holding is possible due to molecular adhesion between the meeting surfaces. When two gauges are run together and the overall dimension of a pile made of two or more blocks is exactly the sum of the constituent gauges. So this is very important fact about slip gauges, that this is a pile. Okay, so when you are keeping one slip gauge on the top of other, so slip gauge 2 is run on the top of slip gauge 6 and a pile is formed, and of course you can go on adding more of them on the top of 2 or on below 6, it doesn't matter. So as you go on piling up the slip gauges, then the overall dimension, so now what happened is that when you combine slip gauges 2 and 6, now this has become the overall dimension that can be measured using this pile, and this dimension is exactly equal to the sum of the sizes of both of them. So this is the size of slip gauge 2 and this is the size of slip gauge 6. Okay, so the sum of these two is exactly the dimension that can be measured by using the pi. The success of this system depends on the combination of the slip gauges. Of course, you need to select them properly. The selection of gauges must be done properly, and with a proper selection of slip gauges, any dimension can be built up. The process of ringing will be explained in the lab demonstration video, and I will upload the link of this demonstration video in the Google Classroom. Slip gauges are classified based upon their accuracy, and there are several grades of slip gauges. The lowest accuracy grade is grade 2, and this is a workshop grade. The slip gauges of grade 2 are used for setting up machine tools, positioning milling cutters, and checking mechanical weights. Then next accurate grade is grade 1. It is used for more precise work, and it is used for setting up sine bars, checking gap gauges, and setting dial test indicators to 0. Next higher accuracy grade is grade 0. This is commonly used for inspection purposes, and they are confined to tool room and machine shop inspection. This means that inspection department has access, or inspection department is the only one who have access to this grade of slip gauges. In this way, it is not possible for grade 0 slip gauges to be damaged by the rough handling expected on the shop floor. Then next higher grade is grade 00. This is kept in standard room and would be kept for work of the highest precision only. A typical example of its use is determination of errors present in the workshop or grade 2 slip gauges, and this is done occasionally. Final grade is calibration grade. This is a special grade with the actual sizes of slip gauges dated or calibrated on a special chart supplied with the set. This chart must be consulted when making up dimension. And because these slips are not made to specific or set tolerances, they are not as expensive as grade 00. It must be remembered that a slip gauge, like any other engineering component, cannot be made to an exact size. All slip gauges must have tolerance on length, flatness, and parallelism of measuring faces. Slip gauges are available in sets, so you don't get single or two slip gauges. Okay, they are available in sets, and generally The sets consist of 103 slip gauges, or a set consisting of 76 slip gauges or 48 slip gauges. So there are uh, various sets available in the market consisting of different numbers of slip gauges. Okay. For example, a set of 103 pieces consists of 49 pieces from 1.01 mm to 1.49 mm in steps of 0.01. So in a set of 103 pieces, there will be 49 pieces starting from size 1.01 mm, 1.02 mm, 1.03 mm, and so on up to 1.49 mm. So there will be an increment in the steps of 0.01. Similarly, 49 pieces having size in the range 0.5 mm to 24.5 mm in the steps of 0.5 mm. So 49 plus 49, 98. 98 plus 4, 103. So there are 4 pieces having sizes 25 mm, 50 mm, 75 mm, and 100 mm. And there is an additional piece in this set having size 1.005 mm. Okay. So this is just an example. There are sets consisting of 76 pieces, and they will have that set will have its own combination of slip gauges. So let's have a look at what requirements or what expectations we have from slip gauges, as they are precision measurement instruments. So the expectation of accuracy and precision is higher from slip gauges. Okay. So first of all, based upon how slip gauges function, we combine several slip gauges by ringing them together. The process of ringing will be explained in the lab demonstration video. And by ringing, we simply mean combine. Okay. Uh, so we combine several slip gauges together by ringing them. So by ringing the slip gauges, we basically create a pile of slip gauges. We stack them on the top of each other. So for example, if this is a slip gauge, I'm showing only the front view, and basically left and right faces are the measuring faces. So we attach or we ring to this slip gauge another slip gauge, so maybe of that size, and this combination is temporary. Okay. So if we want to uh, measure that much length, then the thicknesses or the sizes of two slip gauges, so this is the size of this slip gauge, and this is the size of another slip gauge in this pile or in this combination, and when the two sizes are added, we get the dimension to be measured. Once this measurement is done, these slip gauges are separated. Okay, they are separated and then again kept back into their box. So this is just an example of two, but it might be, for example, if you want to measure a higher dimension, a longer dimension, then there might be addition of other slip gauges to this. And finally, this combination should be such that minimum number of slip gauges are required for measuring any particular dimension. So definitely for measuring a particular dimension, so for measuring this dimension, I can use maybe, for example, 3 slip gauges. I can accomplish that dimension by I can build up that dimension by piling up or stacking up 3 slip gauges, 4 slip gauges, 5 slip gauges, maybe 7 slip gauges. So out of the total slip gauges available in the set, it is possible for us um, to build this dimension by using 3 slip gauges, 4 slip gauges, 5 slip gauges, and 7 slip gauges. But uh, always we want to come up with the minimum number. Okay, so if it is possible to build up this dimension using 3 slip gauges or the minimum number, then we look for such a combination that will result into minimum number of slip gauges so that the error involved will be less. And most importantly, after combining the slip gauges, the total the sum of the sizes of all the slip gauges must be equal to the dimension we want to measure. Even though we are temporarily combining the slip gauges, they should be held together firmly with reasonable cohesion. So this is the first requirement of slip gauges. Then this is the second requirement. So if we have a set of slip gauges, then we should be able to produce any combination, or we should be able to produce any dimension by combining several slip gauges from the set. And this objective is accomplished by making slip gauges in dimensions needed to achieve any combination of sizes within the design range and graduation of the set, ensuring the accuracy of individual blocks to be within acceptable tolerance limits, and attaching the individual blocks so closely to each other that the resulting bar will have a length equal to added sizes of individual blocks. Okay. Then the third requirement, or this is actually an expectation that this is a speculation that the success of measurement using slip gauges is dependent on formation of the point. And after formation of this pile, which is actually should be considered as a single block or single bar consisting of several slip gauges, the attachment of individual gauges must be firm enough to permit a reasonable amount of handling as a unit. And also it should be possible to detach all individual elements so that they are reusable without any harm to their original size or essential properties. It is important here to mention that the accuracy of the slip gauges can be affected by dimensional instability of material or by wear in use, damage during storage and handling, and thus this can be taken care of by periodic calibration. The health of the slip gauges can be very easily checked by checking its ringing quality by ringing the gauge to be tested with an optical flat. So we will see what optical flat is in the next unit.